Arsenal come streaming forward now in surely what will be their last attack. A good ball by Dixon, finding Smith. But Thomas charging through the midfield. Thomas, it's up for grabs now. Thomas, right at
the end. Hello and welcome to Gooners in the USA podcast. Mike.
Sad Andy. sad Andy voice.
Oh shit. It's like the last 3 months of our lives have just not happened, and it's, you know, one thing that I really am just upset with, and I think I can say this because we're friends with that podcast, but we really should have taken that name, Same Old Podcast, before they did.
Same Old Podcast, Same Old Arsenal. Yeah, Craig.
Well, it could be also be Same Old Podcast since we're just talking about the same thing all the time.
Yeah, it's Groundhog Day. I mean, I'm not the first person to say that, and there is apparently we've run out of paper to cover the cracks from last week, and you know, I got to give a shout out before we introduce our guest today. I got to give another shout out to Sebastian, the Photoshop master for my morning present this morning, which was like a Groundhog Day movie poster with your face and my face imported onto it. And then like 10 minutes later, I noticed that if you look at the clock, it's Lee Judges on the clock. The guy's like got a file of goofy pictures of us that he just inserts into various things, and it couldn't be more fucking hilarious. So
I love it.
Check out our timeline, or if I retweeted it a few hours ago. Just check it out. It's hilarious. But normally I give a rousing intro and a background of our guest. But I mean, honestly, the first time I ever spoke to this guy was about 5 minutes ago. So we've just met. But you, Andy, are besties with him right now. So I'm going to ask you to do the introduction today, since this is your homeboy.
Yeah, you know, this guy took advantage of me with alcohol last week. No, Andy is someone that I got to. I think we conversed on Twitter a couple times, and then last week I got to meet him before the Leicester match for a drink, and then after the match we met up, spent a few hours. He was so gracious and nice to just buy me tons of Jack and Cokes that I stumbled home. I wasn't as drunk as you, though, Mike, because I talked to you on the phone and you don't remember that conversation.
I don't drink. I got food poisoning.
Andy, thank you so much for joining us today. Mr. Gooner Man Slim at Andy Gixer46. Dude, really appreciate you coming on the pod, and tell us a little bit about yourself, how you became an Arsenal supporter, and just...
And what you did to Andy last week, because he told me his butt. It was like, I'm a little sore this morning, and I don't know why.
Terrible.
First of all, gents, thanks for having us on. Appreciate that. Obviously, it's an honour to be on a podcast, especially from you guys that obviously do this from the US. Bit about myself. Arsenal seasons get older. Go home and away as much as I can. I got to most away games last season, including the abroad ones as well, which was good fun. I actually became an Arsenal supporter because when I was growing up at school, my best friend's cousin was Paul Shaw. Now, I don't know whether you remember Paul Shaw, but he was an Arsenal player. Not a big Arsenal player, but... Yeah, Paul Shaw. We actually sold Paul Shaw to Millwall, and he was an Arsenal reserve player, really, but... Because he was an Arsenal player, and every time he used to come and pick my pal up from school, he used to come and bring us shirts and sign stuff and all that, and that's how I just sort of fell in love with Arsenal, really. So that was from sort of primary school, early ages of primary school, right through up to, and that was it. So from the age of sort of 3 or 4, really. So yeah, never looked back. That was it for my sins over the last few years, I could say.
Yeah.
But I can't stay away, gents. I said so many times last season, I'm not going. I'm going to stay away. I'm not going to go. Not going to make that trip. Not going to make this trip. And then it gets to Thursday or Friday, and you just can't stay away for love or money. So.
It's the best kept secret. Arsenal's figured it out. That we could say whatever we want. We're going to protest. We're going to not show up. Empty seats. Guess what? We're going. We're coming back. We're buying the kit. I got my second one this season already. We can't help it. We can't help it. They got us.
They have. That's exactly right.
So I'm gonna have to establish a rule here because I'm surrounded by Andys, and I'm gonna have to go with Andy 1 and Andy 2 here, or I'm just gonna be like, Andy, what do you think? And you either are both gonna chime in, or neither one of you are gonna chime in. So Andy, my Andy will be Andy 1, and you, Andy, will be Andy 2. See, it's already getting confusing. So we have to talk about yesterday. Unfortunately, that's kind of it's in our contract. But I got to the pub yesterday. I was all excited. I was full of spilkus. Spirits were high. I even paid my debt to society, and I bought Baconator fries to my buddy Dave Levinson, who served as a representative of the 300 people you shamefully promised Baconator fries to, Andy. Thank you very much. When we signed Lacazette. But I consider that debt paid. It was a symbolic gesture. And if you want your Baconator fries, at this point now you're going to have to contact Dave because he has them.
Fair play to Dave because he deserves them, Mike. And I don't know how you rest your head at night not knowing you haven't paid back the other 300 people. But I do want to just say, because I know you have a question to go to Andy on the match from yesterday, but I've become so accustomed to just waking up, either rolling out of bed, turning the TV on, or, within an hour or two of waking up that the Arsenal play, that having to live through the entire day for the build-up is fucking dreadful.
Because you're still in Portsmouth, right?
No, I am, and I went to see Portsmouth-Walsall yesterday. There was a 3:00 kickoff, so I got a last-minute ticket, went down there, and the whole time I just kept thinking, what's the lineup, checking my phone. And in America, because I'm so far behind, 7 hours, it's literally roll out of bed, turn the match on, and you kind of go. So I don't really enjoy this whole build-up and the nerves because I like to sleep through those.
Yeah, it's better. But so Andy too, you said you go to home and away a lot. I gather you were not there yesterday. Is that right?
Yeah. Do you know what? I was due to go, same as Liverpool next week, but I can now say, fortunately, me and my partner in the process of moving. So we're moving out of our flat into my folks for a couple of weeks, and then before our onward purchase is ready to go. So we're kind of moving twice, if you like. So we're just getting bits packed up now and whatever. And I said to her, it's just for me to take the whole day out, to go all the way to Stoke, watch the game and whatever. It's just, it just weren't the right timing for me. And it's not the prettiest of places to go, if I'm honest. So
I think they needed you, though.
Fortunately, I didn't go because I've been there so many times making them long old trips and coming back disappointed. And don't get me wrong, we're all disappointed when we lose, but it makes it so much worse when you've travelled 4 or 5 hours in a car, spent a shitload of money on diesel and whatever else getting there, and then that long drive back after a loss is never nice. At least if you're at home, you can just open up another bottle of vodka and get pissed.
You could do that on your way back from Stoke as well, but it might not end as well. So how happy were you, Andy, too, to see Mustafi back in the lineup, and how quickly did that fade away?
Mike, I'll be honest with you. When the team came out, I honestly couldn't believe that the guy, or I say the guy, our manager, in who we trust, has thought that it was going to be acceptable to go with the same shambles that we had last week. I mean, Mustafi coming in was great, but at the same time, we still had 2 left backs in our back three. And I knew that Mustafi wasn't going to be impacted there because he's just not that type of leading defender. A World Cup winner on the bench, who's also our team captain, who is a centre half. Why was he not starting? Where was Chambers and where was Holding? Holding travelled to Stoke but was out of the team.
Yeah.
So straight away I thought to myself, what is this guy? What is he taking? Because I couldn't get my head around that situation. Now, the other thing is, with knowing who we were playing, you need big people up at the back. I mean, and after the, Mertesack's performances and people bigging him up after the cup final, etc., he needed to play that game. if there was no one else available, he had to be included in that squad, in that starting 11. And for him to go with what he did was just, it was just a joke, really. And I could see as soon as that thing came out what was coming.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't an inspiring lineup. It didn't seem to show a lot of changes from the previous week. The people that were left out instead of being in there, like you said, I mean, I'm just kind of parroting what you said right now, but it's because it's true. It really seemed to impact the way the game went on. The first half, to me, pretty boring. I mean, again, watching it at the pub, you don't necessarily hear a lot of the commentary. You don't. I mean, it's harder to pay full attention because, of course, you're constantly ordering drinks. But we lost possession 77-23 this time. It was 70-30 last week. But I mean, I'm pretty sure Stoke probably wanted it that way. Don't you think, Andy?
Yeah, of course they did. I mean, most teams go in with that lineup or mentality of we're not going to control the possession, we're not going to control the rhythm of the game, so we're going to attack on the counter. Stoke are a little different now than what we were used to with Mark Hughes and Pulis being completely two different managers. But, when I was walking back from the Pompey match with a friend of mine, he said to me, "What are your predictions for the game?" I said, "We're either going to go there and smash them 4-0, or we're going to come away winning every statistical battle, but we're going to lose 1-0. And that's what happened. Because that's
exactly.
Because that's what Arsenal do, right? Whenever we go to these matches, that's what we do. And, I read on Twitter yesterday someone made a great point with, Man United right now haven't played anyone. They're smashing teams that they're supposed to be smashing. And that's what's going to separate them from us when come April, come May. And so I completely agree with what Andy was saying was we couldn't go into the lineup this week with what we had last week because it didn't work. But why isn't Chambers playing? Why are we selling Gabriel? Why is Holding not in the squad? Why is he coming out after the match saying to us, I wasn't really convinced with our central defensive backs? The fuck is that about? We'll get to Gabriel later because we do. I want to talk about that a little bit, but don't come out and say that when you're fucking putting all this pressure on Monreal, who doesn't play in that position, to cover. So to go back to your question, Stoke had the game the way they wanted it. They wanted to attack us on the counter. They wanted to be that bully. They wanted to take advantage of their set pieces. And it played into their hands yet again. We don't tactically go in and do anything different, so it's the same old thing on repeat, and it's so frustrating. So frustrating.
It is. And speaking of repeat, the second week in a row, I'm tweeting at halftime about how not conceding a goal in the first 10 minutes would be more important than us actually going out and getting one in the first 10 minutes. I'm bracing for the inevitable, which at this point it is inevitable. But then a weird thing happened. My buddy Murph, who I got to see yesterday at the pub, proposes a bet, a double shot of Jameson's, and I win the bet if we don't concede in the first 12 minutes. Which, I mean, I'm sitting there saying that we're going to concede, but then he proposes his bet, and, against my better judgment, I took the bet because, Jameson. And I assumed he was talking Jenna Jameson, but it turned out it was just the shot Jameson. But anyway, by the time we got through the 12 minutes of the bet, he had downed both shots of the Jameson I had to buy him and polished off another drink. So, I mean, that kind of tells you how that worked out. What is the fucking deal with the 10 minutes, the first 10 minutes of the second half?
Again, it's got to be we talked about it last week. It has to be management getting their heads right. You've got to come out of that locker room in a mindset of don't concede.
I'm at the point where I want them to not go into the locker room. I mean, can we just make them stay out on the pitch?
Sometimes, who did that? Was it Tony Pulis that did that a couple seasons ago?
I want to say it was that guy from Blackpool, Ian Holloway or something like that, or that, I don't know. He did something. He was berating his players on the pitch or something. But I mean, what I envision when they go back in the locker room at halftime is that they go in there and the guy that's handing them their water and their Gatorade is fucking Bill Cosby or something. Because I mean, they come out
he's
in the second
them?
half. That's what it looks like. I mean, they're absolutely getting taken advantage of in the first 10 minutes. And I don't mean to make light of that entire topic, but I mean, I do mean to make light of Arsenal's preparedness in this. Andy, too. I mean, is this going to be a repetitive thing every single game that we have to just sweat through the beginning of the second half?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, gents, as much as you both know my feelings on Arsene Wenger, absolutely, and I do love Arsene Wenger with all my heart, because he has made us the club that we are, which is fair enough. However, as much as we can blame him for not getting the team focused and ready for the second half, the secondary to that is that there's not a leader on that pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? How many fucking years, how many seasons have we been saying over the last however many it is, we have not got a leader on that pitch? Okay.
Just last week we thought we had two potential ones now, and they were both on the pitch. The point with that, when Giroud got that goal, you saw Kolasinac screaming at people, setting people up to make sure that we were going to hold that lead and get that done. But that was in a situation where we were losing. We were at home. We had the buzz and the atmosphere in the Emirates last week was surprisingly good, which is not every week, I can assure you. But there was a bit of a buzz around that, and I think adrenaline kicked in, which made him do that and shout that and put us in that situation where, do this, you do this, you do that. But when we do go out, the second half kicks off, there's got to be a leader somewhere within that team that goes, you know what, gents, let's just stick everyone behind the ball for the first 5-10 minutes and get our rhythm going, But we didn't. We give away again. Sloppy ball, sloppy passes, which again we'll come on to. And then boom, straight to it. Within seconds, they cut us apart at the back. And you can't knock him. It was a good finish. And what a buy for Stoke, Yeah. I mean, Berahino puts through a brilliantly weighted pass. But, imagine this. Nacho Monreal, a left wing or wing back, playing center half, putzing around the pitch and completely just fell asleep with Hesse. Once he got the ball, once he got the pass from Berahino, I mean, we knew we were in big trouble. It would have had to have taken a full out sprawl from Czech, and Czech just missed it.
You've got the thing there as well is that what's difficult is that it's very easy to blame the people that are playing in the centre of our defence, but as much as they are to blame, you've also got Wenger's got to take massive responsibility for that, because by playing players out of position, you're making them players look bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as much as we can say Monreal, he's there, he's been told to do a job, and he's told to do a job that he can't do. That's not his role to do that. It's similar to saying to a brickmaker, go and fix that plumbing issue. Do you get where I'm coming from? It's like,
and that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, it's less about Nacho and being upset that he fell asleep. It's about why was he in that position in the first place.
Yeah, no, absolutely, spot on, 100%. And the other thing, by Wenger putting players like that in that position, What is it also saying to the other players? So Rob Holding, right, at the end of last season, every single Arsenal fan was bigging him up through the roof, right? Everyone was bigging him up, saying how good he was. Next Tony Adams, this, that and the other, okay? The guy has one bad game at Leicester, right, due to no fault of his own, in my opinion, because he had no leaders with him along that back four to coach him and train him what to do. He's a young kid.
Which he needs, clearly.
Exactly, right? So when he's playing alongside Koscielny, or when he's playing alongside Mertesacker that can say this, that and lead from the back, he's had good games. Last against Leicester, he had one bad game, okay? Now, he's now not even on the bench, Mike. He's been dropped. He's travelled to Stoke and been dropped, okay? Now, arguably, Wenger might come out and go, oh, he took a knock, he was injured. Bollocks. He's dropped him because he had a bad performance against Leicester, okay? Now, what must he be thinking? He's thinking, okay, I've had a bit of a stinker. I've been absolutely dropped, and there's two left-backs playing in my position.
Yeah, no, I mean,
what does that do for the guy's confidence? Do you know what I mean? And it just goes back to Wenger saying, he said in a conference the other week that he was saying that he's quite willing to play young players and accept that they're going to drop, that they're going to lose Arsenal points and stuff. But he'd rather do that and give them the game time to progress into what they need to be. But to completely drop him completely out of the squad is just ludicrous. Absolutely madness.
Yeah, it doesn't make much sense to me. Andy, did you get home from Fratton Park in time to see the Lacazette offside goal?
Oh, yeah, no, I saw the whole match. And I was about to say, I mean, I echo everything Andy says about Nacho, and even going into more detail of what it does on the confidence of these other players. But when you go back and you look at the goal, there's so much hate from Xhaka, and it's like, the guy usually has a 95% completion rate with his passes, and he misplaces one. And the one thing I look for, Mike, is when a player misplaces a pass, what do they do after that? And he tried to make up for it, and he got caught out of position. And everyone slated him for the pass and then not being in the correct position. But it's like, where was Ramsey? Why didn't Ozil sprint back to try and cover space? You know, and so you can put all the blame on Xhaka. Yeah, it's his fault that the ball even got played through. But he tried to make up for his mistake, and maybe it's because, and I hate saying this because some of our listeners that are faulting him are good friends of ours, but think of it from the perspective of he fucked up and he tried to fix it. Like, some of the football minds see that completely different. And I could be wrong, you guys could both disagree, but a lot of people were at fault on that goal, but I don't think Nacho was one of them. As Andy said, he's been put into a position he's not comfortable playing. Got to give the guy credit. But again, per Murder Soccer's on the bench. If you're on the bench, you're healthy enough to play in the game. Why aren't you in the fucking game?
Absolutely.
And I said it last week.
We'll come to that, yeah.
If Nacho goes down holding his hamstring in the first 2 minutes, who's coming on? So,
not even the first 2 minutes though, and that's the thing.
Yeah,
you know, players go down in the warm up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it happened this morning.
Yeah,
Can we talk? We'll lighten the mood a little bit. But does Hesse really know that he's playing for Stoke? Like, have they said to him, like, you know, when he's like, take me out downtown? No, you don't need to go downtown. Just stay at the ground. Go to the club, the training ground. Like, why do you keep taking me in from helicopter every week? Like, does he know where he's at yet?
He's walking around town with one of those virtual reality, with the thing that you plug your phone into. Just to make him think he's in like a metropolitan area. I don't know what's going on in Stoke that they keep bringing all these flair players in all of a sudden, and they seem bizarre.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
It's a fucking signing.
Half of the team has no teeth, and the other half are flair people. There's like no in between.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But what a signing for them, though. I mean, with everyone looking at the strikers and how much we paid for Lacazette, how much Chelsea paid for Morata, they got a 2 times Champions League winner for a decent price, and he's going to do well for them. That's a great signing. And it's just a loan, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, even still,
you know, it's from Mark Hughes' view. You know, I mean, Stoke have never really been a typical team that will constantly battle with relegation. You know, they've been on the cusp of that a few times, but they've always been, you know, they will nick points, which, you know, and we know that more than anyone. But yeah, I mean, even if he makes them comfortable and does what he's got to do, I mean, I guess it's just he's probably happy to be a star man at a club where he's going to play week in, week out. I guess, you know, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it makes a lot more sense than the moves that we see to the Man Cities and Manchester Uniteds, where they go for the big money, they go for the glory, and then they don't get game time. I mean, he will be the big fish in the little pond of Stoke this season, and I think that'll be very good for his career. And I suppose he goes back to PSG after this, might actually have a shot at being in their starting rotation regularly, because I think he will do well this year at Stoke. And it, scares the heck out of me because everyone seems to be on the rise except. So Lacazette, the goal. I mean, his toenail might have been offsides. Maybe, Andy, too? See, this isn't working.
Yeah. Gents, one of the things that I will just let you know, I am actually a qualified level 5 referee, and I only actually gave that up last season when I decided to actually go home and away with Arsenal. So I was actually refereeing at a semi-pro level, so players get paid to play. Decent grounds, always got 2 linesmen with me. You know, it got a little bit heavy at times because I had to go in a suit. You had to be there 2 hours before kick-off, 2 hours after, and go and see the whatever. But anyway, so there's a lot of debate on Twitter, and I had a massive debate actually with my good friend DT about whether it was offside or whether it wasn't. And both DT and Troops actually said that it was onside. That linesman guessed that he was offside, but he got the decision spot on. That he was offside. The goal was offside. If he plays his heel, if his heel is in a more advanced position than the second last defender, he's offside. Any part of the body that you can play the ball with. So if it had been his arm across, he wouldn't have been offside because you can't play the ball with your arm, but you can with your heel. And there's, everyone said it. They said it on, even Keown said it as well with Gerrard on BT Sport. The linesman got the decision right, but he guessed it. There's no way on earth that he saw that with his eye. He saw that it might have been impossible. That. He put the flag up and he guessed, but he guessed right. It was offside, but oh my God, what a finish!
Are you supposed? Yeah, I mean, are you supposed to guess when it's that close though, or are you just supposed to keep the flag down?
No, you're not. You're not meant to guess at all. You are meant to. You're meant to give the advantage to the attacking player. So that's what should have happened, which is where the debate is.
But we can't be crying and whining about it because in the end, it was just a hair offside. But like you said, what a finish though. I mean, that was the one thing you can take out of this game. I think.
Do you know what? On a massive positive there, just while we're on the Lacazette subject, do you know what? That guy, for a little man, was solid. The strength that he showed, the hold-up play that he showed against them big thugs at Stoke, was in the league, if not better than Giroud at times at holding the ball up. I mean, there were several times I noted down that where he got the ball into him and he just stood strong, went past players. And it's so lovely to see that a guy of that size, he's just, he's solid. And when he turned that ball and just lumped it in the roof of the net, it was almost watching TT, wasn't it? Back when Henry was banging in goals like that sort of finishing, and Wrighty, of course. But
I thought that thing was going to come out through the back of the net. That was
exactly. And you know what? There'll be throughout the season, Mike. There will be times where we'll get them decisions for us, and Bush he'll get them goals all day long, which is a massive positive from that.
Absolutely. And then I love how we have theory on this pod. Anytime we need a refereeing decision or some sort of specialty, we go to Andy. Our own Andy here gives us the goalkeeper experience. I mean, anytime you need to know, was the keeper in the wrong, were they in the right, we can go to our goalkeeper friend Andy Rhodes. And then, of course, if it's anything having to do with hamburgers or masturbating is in my wheelhouse. So I mean, we like to divide and conquer the world, and I think we're doing a great job of it.
Yes. No,
so once again, Altenkirchen Wenger makes a change in the formation midway through the game for the second week in a row. Things that we've been complaining about not seeing. Giroud enters the game, Kolasinac leaves, and from what I understand, because I'm not exactly Mr. Tactic, we go from the back four back to the back, or from a back three to a back four, with Bellerin and I guess Ox slanting into the fullback positions. And I mean, look, I like Ox playing, and I realize you can't really have him and Bellerin both in the same position at the same time. But when we have Nacho and Kolasinac, what is Bellerin doing out on the left hand side?
He was wasted out there. I thought there were a couple opportunities in the match, the first half, where I thought if he had a left foot, it's a better shot on target. And fuck me, tactically, last week Arsene got the substitution spot on, but this week he fucked royally up. I mean,
sorry, Anne, just a quick one
there. Go ahead.
You've just mentioned on a massive bugbear of mine. Everyone bigged up Wenger for his substitutions last week. Right?
I saw your tweet about it. Go ahead.
Andy, we were at the Emirates last week, yeah? Both of us sat in there. If we'd have been where Wenger was sat, we could have fucking made them substitutions. It was obvious what he needed to do. It wasn't a tactical mastermind. No, It wasn't, oh my God, but there are people on Twitter, there are Arsenal fans going, oh look, Arsene Wenger, he's not lost it, he's tactically still got it, he's made them subs and they've won us the game. Subs were always going to happen. Now, this time, Ramsey was on the pitch, yeah, so he couldn't make that obvious substitution of bringing him on, and what did he do? He fucked the subs up.
No, big time. And I guess I should clarify. No, I should clarify that he made the subs, I think, at the right point in the match, which again he does every time. But they worked.
It's like grading on a curve too. Like when someone doesn't fuck up and they do like the normal job, but it surprises you so much, it just seems like a much more masterful thing. I mean, and that's I think what we were all going through last week. Like if you normally get D's and C's and you end up getting a B- on a test, I mean, it's the greatest fucking thing that's ever happened to you. And that's kind of I guess what I was feeling last week, but. We're back to C's and D's on the tactical side this week.
Here's the thing, and I'm going to go on my rant now.
All right.
Kalashnikov should have stayed on and Bellerin should have come off if we were bringing on Giroud. The next thing that bothers me was when we bring off our record-breaking signing, who was not having the best of games, but was still creating and forcing play going forward. And we bring him off, and we bring on Theo fucking useless man and cunt Walcott. And I'm sorry to say this, but his time at Arsenal needs to be done because his only contribution yesterday during the match was he fell over running for the ball. That sums up his Arsenal career. He is a fucking useless waste of space that we pay way too much money for. And I'm sorry because I know there's a lot of Theo Walcott fanboys. I don't give a shit what goals he scores. I don't give a shit what assists he scores. Go look at his fucking record. And if you want to say to me, oh, but he scores against Man City, we were losing that match. We were losing the match against Bayern Munich when he scored. The games that he scores where the goals matter is when we're playing Sutton, when we're playing fucking Lincoln. He is a useless waste of space. And as Andy said to me last week after the match, we've tried this for 6 seasons now. It doesn't work. And we bring him on for Lacazette for all fucking... I don't get it. I don't get it.
There was a fire drill in our pub when he came on, and it was the 80th minute. People just, they didn't even pay their tabs. They just left.
It baffles my mind. And what I don't get... And gents, I'm going to ask you this question, right? And just give me a yes or no answer, okay? Do you want Ozil to re-sign? Andy, yes or no?
Yes.
Mike, do you want him to resign?
Yes.
Why can we? And I do too. But why can we not?
It isn't as easy as it would have been in the past to say that. But yes, I do.
But why wasn't he taken off yesterday? He looked lackadaisical. He wasn't having the best of matches. Bring him off. Bring Iwobi on. Keep Lacazette on. I don't understand the substitutions. I don't understand why we keep reverting to Theo can change the match. He can't. He literally fell over running for the ball.
She fell over.
I mean, Andy, tell me your thoughts on the substitutions because they were a fucking joke. Absolute joke.
I mean, you're absolutely spot on what you said. I mean, as much as you said at that time, Lacazette wasn't having the greatest of games, okay? When you've got a player like that you've spent all that money on, he can get you a goal with it's like Sanchez. How many times so many times I've absolutely been slated Sanchez through the first half, called him lazy, gives the ball away, does this, does that, right? Then bang, does something within seconds, ball's in the net. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is what you pay money to buy quality players like that. So even though the amount of times when we used to watch Thierry Henry, the amount of times he was so quiet in games, kept pulling out wide, kept coming out left wing, and we're like, get through the middle, right? The amount of times I used to slate him, then boom, 1 minute of magic, goal, yeah? And that's what players like that do for you. When he brought Walcott on, Mark Hughes was rubbing his hands together. What is Walcott going to do against the Giants at Stoke? They're just like, do you know what? We're just going to sit here and come on, you come out and break us down. And they knew full well that worked. The minute they got the goal, they knew full well. They knew full well that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, you know how bringing in Giroud is Plan B. Well, bringing in Theo is like Plan negative A. I mean, it was like the white flag was raised, and that pretty much takes us to the end of the match. Before we move on to some general talking points, in one of the bright spots, I think yesterday, once again, was Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. I mean, the analytically, anyways, if you use Opta ratings and that sort of thing, he's an 8.2 and a sea of 5s and 6s yesterday. He had 7 dribbles in the game, and I don't know exactly how they define that. But however they define that, no one else had more than 3. So it did seem that he was getting the ball from deep lying areas and making those penetrating runs that you said, Andy, kind of put a bit of excitement through the Emirates last week whenever he would touch the ball. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I thought he was fantastic. Just burning down the right side, whipping in dangerous crosses that we weren't able to finish. He seems to have adopted Alexis's work rate and intensity. And it also seems that he's adopted Alexis's get me out of here to somewhere where people can match my work rate and intensity department as well. But did you like his game, and do you think he's gone?
it's frustrating to see him play right now because he doesn't have faith in the three people behind him, right? And so if you had three center backs where as a player you can turn around and go, okay, I can go forward and they've got my ass. I don't think he feels that way. So we're not seeing the Ox really get into his rhythm. I love watching him play any position because he does have those explosive runs. He can run at defenders and keep the ball. He does have the ability to outpace and get good crosses in. I don't think he had the greatest of games yesterday. I thought he was good. But I don't know if we keep him. And you hear so much from behind the people that say they know things from behind the scenes and that his agent wants more money. And I don't know. I mean, would he make a Chelsea? There's been a lot of rumor that he's being touted to go there, but does he beat out an Alonso? Does he beat out who do their wings back? The other guy, Aspilicueta, who's their captain. Like, I don't see him slotting in to that.
He doesn't want to go there to be a wing back either. I think he wants to be used in the center
does he beat out
Conte, Bayakoko, Willian, Fabregas, Pedro. I mean, he might beat them out on any given day, but he's not going to get regular game time in that lineup.
I think he stays. Andy, what do you think? I mean, do you think he stays or do you think he's going?
Just to go back on thoughts on Ox before I say that, I honestly do believe that he will stay, and I honestly do believe he does want to be here, and he does like, he wants to be an Arsenal player. Mm-hmm. I've got three concerns with the Ox situation. The first things first is that yes, he goes past players, he dribbles, he goes, he literally opens things up. His final ball for me is just not good enough. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The amount of times he's beat, he did it at Leicester. He went through 3 or 4 different players, and you think, oh my god! And then the ball comes in, and you're like, oh, it just, it's just not good enough. So that's one thing that he needs to work on, and he's only young, so you can work on that. Okay. My second issue with him is that all the years he's been with Arsenal, he's only now just started. He's had one good season, which was last season. He started playing out of his skin, and you know what? Is that a coincidence? His contract's up and that he's put himself on the market. We saw that with Theo Walcott. Theo Walcott done the same in the last year of his contracts. Oh, I want to be a striker. I want to do this. I want to do that. He had some really good games, Theo, in that year, and he signed the deal. And then now look at him. He's put his feet up again. The third issue that I've got with Oxlade-Chamberlain, and I'll ask you both 2 questions. Sorry, I'll ask you both one question. If all our players are fit, so all our players start in our team.
Oof.
Fighting for the same spot. And, Bellerin is quite a confidence player as well, in that when he's not confident, he's not playing very well. Based on current form, he would be my starting right wing back, unless we were. I mean, with everybody on the squad, he would be my starting right wing back until and unless we sign somebody better than he is. And believe me, there's plenty of people that would be better, but I don't think anybody on the squad.
No, and I make you right, but I still stand by. I mean, I don't really know what happened with Hector. Some people said that he had injuries and whatever, but before Hector turned bad, if you like, or before he wasn't performing as well, he was sublime. I mean, on his day, he's lightning quick. He's such a good challenger of the ball. He can get forward. So if they're both on their day, for me, I would play Bellerin over. In current form, I agree with you completely, but if Bellerin's going to get back to the standard that we know he can play, where does Ox start in our team? Because he definitely doesn't start in our midfield, does he?
No, it's a really good question to pose, because you're right. When we have our full 11, it would be hard for him to play over Bellerin. But
Ramsey's going to get hurt, though, too. And
he will, but does the Ox go into center? Here's the thing. We've always said at Arsenal we just don't have enough players to push one another. And so I think if you put the Ox and Bellerin and they're both healthy, they're going to push each other for that starting 11, and that makes the team better. And so Andy's right. Does he, on the day, if they're both healthy, you probably put Bellerin in there over the Ox. But we don't have that luxury with a full healthy 11. So I think the one thing I love about the Ox is he'll play wherever. You always hear, he wants to play in central midfield. Well, who told you that? Where's that coming from that he has to be a central midfielder? I think he's just happy to play football. I think he legitimately just doesn't give a shit and says, "Hey, if you need me there, I'll go."
He's made comments that he prefers playing the wingback position than the out-and-out winger that he was playing beforehand, because he likes to collect the ball a little bit deeper lying and possess it as he comes up the field. I know he likes playing on the right more than the left based on his comments.
I have no doubt in my mind that if Czech went down and Ospina pulled a hamstring, that motherfucker would put the gloves on before anyone else, because he just doesn't. He would. He wants to be on this team, and it seems like he loves playing for Arsenal, and hopefully they get that contract sorted, because I would love for him to stay. But it's a tough one, because I don't think he goes to Chelsea and just walks into that starting 11. And I feel like now at Arsenal, he is knocking on the starting 11 door every week, and that's what you want as a player when you're healthy.
I mean, he has been starting every week.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, start every week as a wingback, or go to Chelsea and fight Bayakoko and Fabregas and all those guys. I don't know, but I share both of your sentiments that it would be nice if he stays, because he is truly one of my favorite Gunners in a long, long time, just personality-wise, work rate guys. And I'm glad to see him finally coming good after all those seasons where he didn't, where I called him Mr. July. All right, so I think
the problem with him is that he's coming to the age now where he's reaching his prime age of football.
Mm-hmm.
And what's worrying is that he doesn't actually know what his position is. Is he a right wing back? Is he a centre midfielder? Is he a right winger? What is he? If you're getting to that age and you're coming into your prime years of football, and you still haven't actually established what your actual position is, I'm not necessarily blaming him for that. I mean, it's got to be, again, down to poor coaching. And I know he's been riddled with injuries and stuff like that, but surely because anyone coming in for him is going, well, where are we going to play him? All right, he wants to play in central midfield, but he's not good enough to play that position.
What in the world was that? What the fuck was that sound? Sorry, Andy, but
there's some noisy ducks in this house.
Jesus Christ. My God. Sorry. Yeah. Welcome to Gooners in the USA, Andy.
So like I said, I want him to stay. I think he's holding out to get more money, if I'm honest. He said it's not about the money, but I think he's waiting to see what the other guys are going to do, because he don't want to sign a deal at 100k if they're going to be all being paid 250.
Right.
I hear the number. I hear the 150,000 number going around now, which would slightly place him finally ahead of his friend Theo Walcott in the wage packet.
Yeah.
So let's put the match to bed, and Andy, there's been a one-way traffic jam going from London to Spain in the last week or so. So you have some thoughts on this?
Yeah, so Gabriel signs for Valencia, and £10 million, which in today's...
Is this me right yet?
I don't think it is, because if you follow him on social media, he's still doing a lot of recovery work. But this one for me hurts a little bit, because I've always liked him. I'm not saying he's a great center back. I'm not saying that he's the best center back to ever play for Arsenal, but he was a center back who wanted to win, who loved the club while he was here, who stood up to a lot of the bullies at other clubs that we dislike passionately. Seemed to love playing against Chelsea for some reason, and it's sad to see him go. And I haven't seen if he's posted anything with a goodbye or
he has, yeah.
Yeah, so
Did he pass his medical? I mean, I'm just still assuming he's going to be on the bench for us next week because he'll fail his medical.
It's done and dusted, but for me, it's frustrating to see a player like that go, because you're on the bell because Andy's on. But no, I don't know. I know a lot of people used him as a scapegoat, and I had this argument with someone that no one likes to blame Koscielny for problems. So whenever a goal went in and Gabriel was on the pitch, it's like it was his fault. Dude was playing right back in a game, and I remember the ball went down the left, and they blamed him. And it's just like, it just sucks to see him leave. But what really frustrates me, and Andy pointed it out before, we let a center-back go, we're continuing to not play the ones that we have, and we put Monreal in. So if we're going to allow him to leave, we have to replace him.
Yeah, I agree. And I I love Gabriel mostly because I love to make fun of him. He's the only guy that makes me look relatively attractive. But I mean, he was frustrating. It was maddening because you would expect him to be a complete liability, and he would come up with a massive shift, and then the next game you'd be excited to see what he's going to do, and he would just fucking stink up the pitch. I mean, he was just the human conundrum that was the opposite of what you expected him to be. But more than anything else, he in the starting lineup is just a sign of the level that we're at. And that, you know, if guys like Gabriel are on the fringe of our first team, rather than being plugged into the first team defense at Burnley or at a West Ham or something like that, then where are we? Because he's not good enough.
He's not good enough.
He never was, and he never will be.
No, but
I like the guy.
He's good enough to play against some of these European teams that we're going. Because here's the thing: if we come out and we replace him, if we bring in a good center back, right? Great. Bye, Gabriel. Thank you for the time you had here, but we need squad right now. We need depth, and I would rather him play over Monreal as a center back. Just me personally, I'd rather have him in there because that's his position. That's where he's comfortable. And as you said, he had some worldies. He had some really fucking terrible games. There's not very many times I can remember him losing us a match. And so, you know, no, he's not going to be that person that plays against Chelsea week in and week out. He's not going to play against the cities. But he is.
But he did, though. I mean, that was the thing.
That's the thing, because we didn't have
Chelsea,
exactly. We didn't have better. But would you rather have Gabriel on your bench when you're playing Ludogorets in the Europa League or on that starting 11 to give someone else a rest and not have Monreal playing 11, 12 games in a row? It just, for me, it sucks to see him go because we're not going to replace him. And I guess that's kind of my point here is knowing our management, we will not replace that player.
Chambers is his replacement. I mean, for like it or
not.
Why
isn't he playing then? Why isn't he in this?
That's a separate question. I just mean roster-wise for this season, Chambers is his replacement. He's like the new signing, you know.
Yeah. Andy, any thoughts on Gabriel?
Yeah, to be honest, I think you've both covered exactly. You know, you've hit the nail on the head. He can do a job, but in a nutshell, he's just not good enough. He should never have been bought in the first place. And you know, as you've said, he's had games where he's been good, and then he's had games where he just absolutely some of the decisions he makes just stupidity. You know, White Hart Lane last year, the penalty he gave away, you just looked at that and you was just like, well, you know, what are you doing? You know, and it's hard, and he just isn't good enough. And how many players have we got in our team where we can say they're just not good enough? And you know what? For me, it depends what sort of Arsenal fan you are, because since being on Twitter and speaking to people on there's so many people that are happy with finishing where we finished last season, go on a cup run, win the FA Cup, and that's it. You know, they're happy with that. You know, and I've got into so many debates on Twitter about people that are like, well, why would you sack Arsene Wenger? He's just won the FA Cup. He's just done this and done that. So if you're of the mentality where you're happy to fight for Europe every week, and I don't even mean fight to get into Europe, whether that be the Europa or the Champions League, and potentially win the odd FA Cup, then he's fine for Arsenal Football Club. There's no problem with him. Same as there's no problem with the manager in that situation. But for me, I want my Arsenal to be what we were. I want us to push for the title. I want us to at least compete. You know, if we lose the title by 1 or 2 points, fine. I've got no problems with that. You know, but for me, it's just not good enough, and he's not good enough if we are going to compete for the league, because we are a million miles away to compete for that league at the minute, a million miles away.
Yeah. And so,
I mean, a guy like Gabriel he's Doan Giroud, he's Philip Senderos, he's that class of player in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not much more, and we weren't winning with them.
I agree with everything you're both saying, and Andy hits it on the head with what kind of a supporter are you. But in my opinion, we aren't the club, and we don't have the management that are going to go out and sign these world-class players that we want. So since we're not going to get those players, for me, I enjoy seeing a player that has passion for the club, that fights for the shirt, that will stand in front of Diego Costa when he does something to one of our players and says, nope, not me. You're not. This doesn't happen when I'm on the pitch. So that's the caliber where I'm at now, where I'm like, that's what I want to see in one of our players. I don't see Chambers doing that. Holding might be that player.
Holding's growing into that person,
right.
But he needs that partnership for maybe another year or two.
So until we turn around and we go, hey, we're signing these world class players. He's not good enough to be on the team. I completely agree. He's not good enough to be an Arsenal player week in and week out. But we're not at the point where we can be so picky. So I'm like, I just want to see a player who gives a shit. Yeah,
no, that's fair enough. I think the other thing, and as well, is coming on to that as well. I know what you said about being in Europe and rotating and stuff, but don't forget we've also got Christian Bielik, who looked absolutely fantastic in pre-season. Now, I know that's only pre-season, but how fantastic would it be to mould both him and Holding
would be great.
next to somebody experienced? So when we are away to Galatasaray in a few months' time, how nice would it be to have them sort of two youngsters, and leading off someone like Mertesacker, or if Koz hasn't played at the weekend, play Koz in there, or Mustafi or whoever. But, Bielik is a massive lump as well. He's a right big old, do that. And I just think, again, it goes back to, if we're not going to buy players and we're not going to spend money, then the youth players that we've got coming through, fucking play them. Throw them in at the deep end and see what they got. Yeah? Because everyone was bigging up all our youth players, all our younger players all throughout like when we went to Australia, when we went to China. Everyone was like, oh my God, they all look amazing. The minute they came up against a strong Chelsea side in China, they all melted. They all folded. Yeah?
Yeah,
I want no one more than Chambers to just fucking play a match for us and absolutely dominate and never look back. Like,
why is he not even on our bench?
That's the weird question, man. I mean,
he must be on his way out. Way out. There's no other reason why. He had an absolutely fantastic year at Middlesbrough last year. He's a young lad. He's an England fucking international player.
Yep.
Right? He's not even on our bench, and we're still playing two left-backs at centre-half. Yeah. There's just no fucking logic to it.
No. And one of the concerns about him, which is, and I'm not even sure this is accurate, that he's kind of on the slower side, is generally resolved playing in the center of a 3-man or a 5-man back. So, I mean, it just seems even more suited now with our current formation. It's even more suited for him being in there if we don't have our first choice of a healthy Koscielny and a healthy and confident Mustafi in the middle.
We're sitting on two young English center backs, and Mike knows my viewpoint. If you're English and you can play for the Arsenal, then you should be in our starting 11 every week. And it would be great to see the two of them in there. And Andy, you're right. Why isn't he in? And why aren't these questions being posed? Why are we not hearing these answers as to where these players are?
It's just frustrating. I mean, I don't know whether you guys listen to Andy and James on the. I can't remember.
I'm not sure that you listen to them. Apparently,
the Arse blog. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know whether you, but James is obviously some sort of, from what I've gathered from the pod, he's some sort of, he goes to Coney Hall and he is there and he does get to ask Wenger questions and stuff like that. And I sometimes think to myself, I need to turn up. Why isn't Wenger being asked these questions? And I'll tell you why, because all they want to fucking know about is Sanchez, and that story's just fucking boring. Mm-hmm. We know if he's going to stay or go. We don't know what's going to happen, but let's get on to actually what's going to help the club now in this situation. Why the fuck was Rob Holding left out of the team? No one's asked him that yet. And where the fuck is Callum Chambers?
Yeah, it's a weird one. I would love to be able to sit in a room and at the end of the day, why can't they ask these questions? Like, are we being trumped? Are they trumping us where they're just smoke screening? The one story that everyone wants to talk about and if we are going to sell Chambers, it makes sense that he goes back to Southampton. And don't they have a center back that would be an instant starting 11 center back for Arsenal? That would.
I keep hearing something about this gentleman.
Yeah, like doesn't that make sense to send him home and we bring in what's his name? Van Dijk.
Virgil something. Yeah. Didn't you try to get into the press conference room and just got absolutely taken down at the door by security?
Yeah.
After the game, I mean, I heard about that. Fake news conferences, apparently, because no one's asking the questions that need to be asked. A couple more talking points, and then we have a bunch of user questions to get to today. Kolasinac, nothing about his play yesterday. It wasn't. He didn't exactly build tremendously off of his last two games, which were fantastic. But all of a sudden, we've got a bunch more traditional shirt numbers that might be available for him. The day I get my Kolasinac 31 home kit, which was on Friday, and so if he changes this season, I think he hopefully will hook us up with replacement kits. But I ran a poll online to see what number people want him to go to if he changes numbers, and I have to say I was a little surprised at the results. The number 2, which you assume will be available maybe, got 25% of the vote. Number 3 won the poll with 44% of the vote, and 3, we're hoping, we're assuming that's going to become available, but who knows? Number 5, which is available now, pulled in 25% of the vote. Only 5% of people went with number 14, though, and I was disappointed because I think it was me. I think it was the 3 of us. The 3 of us were the only ones that voted for number 14, and I just that would be my dream come true. Kolasinac 14. Jose Mourinho, the fucking Chazer. It's been 2 games now, and already everyone's crowning them champions. But, I mean, are we about to see another example of the Mourinho 3-year arc? The first year he comes in, underperforms, rumors of unhappiness. Year 2, utter and complete domination with a league title. Year 3, he's run out of town and sacked by midseason because the team is just revolting on him. I mean, is that in the process of happening, or do we need to I know my Andy's going to say, you got to wait for them to play somebody. But is that what we're seeing this season? Is he pulling it all together in year 2 like always?
I think he will. I think if you go back and look at our season predictions, I have him finishing second. And I think I said that they will have that arc, but they do need to play someone. But again, when you're playing these mid-level teams, you smash them, and that's what they're doing. You're starting to see Pogba turn into the player we all expected him to and what we saw at Juventus. But they're going to be in there, and you know that he's going to mindfuck a lot of these managers around him. And so I'll hand it over to Andy, but they're going to be dangerous.
Andy, you'd take him at Arsenal in a second, wouldn't you?
Do you know what?
I would.
The only reason why I would was because he's the sort of manager that would take no shit and win trophies. And what makes me die, what makes me absolutely die and makes me laugh is that there's people on there. The minute you put something out like that, I got abused. In the end, I had to block this one guy, but I put something out on Twitter and he said, "You're not an Arsenal fan if you'd even think about that." And I went, "Hang on a minute." I said, "I'm just getting people's opinions on this. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I'm not saying it's what should happen. What I'm saying to you is that there's people saying that he had a bad season last year. Did he? Did he have a bad season last year? He won the bloody Europa Cup, got into the Champions League, and lifted the League Cup. I don't think that's a bad season."
No, I would take all those.
Not at all. I mean, and I would take him there, but only again because he would take no shit and potentially win his trophies. But my concern is, and I know Andy, I absolutely agree with you that they've played a real shit depleted West Ham side that lost again yesterday, and also they've now just beat Swansea. My argument with that is that they didn't get out of second gear. They blew them away. They blew them apart. They got 4 goals in each game.
Didn't 3 come in the last couple minutes yesterday?
They just did. In the last 10 minutes, they started running. They started the substitution that they made. Martial come on, absolutely fantastic sub. And they just look so pacey. They got so much pace going through their whole team when they break. But they didn't need to use it because they were just comfortable in doing what they were doing. And I said at the beginning of the season, the minute they signed Lukaku, I've been calling out for us to sign Lukaku for years. Absolutely years. Last year I said the same when we were linked with God knows who last year. We were linked with Lacazette, weren't we, last year, and God knows what, however many other strikers. But I said then go and sign Lukaku. And if he can score that many goals at Everton, with the service of what he's going to get at United, with the pace that they break at, he's going to score goals for fun. He'll definitely get Golden Boot this year without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, so, he can find the back of the net for sure.
Andy, let me ask you this. Now that we have Lacazette, now I know that the whole with Lukaku having the Premier League experience, but when you look at both of them, if you had to pick right now, seeing Lacazette, and he's going to be a hell of a striker as well. It won't be Golden Boot. I completely agree with you. I would love Lukaku as well, but I would take Lacazette over Lukaku only because of the extra play he gives us, footwork, his ability to play in multiple positions. But who would you take next season after both of them have some Premier League experience? Would you still take Lukaku over Lacazette?
No, I wouldn't. I think my only issue with Lacazette is not Lacazette at all. It's how we play football.
Exactly.
Because I don't know if I'm going to steal Thierry Henry's thunder, but I don't know if you saw his analysis the other day on Sky Sports with, he basically broke Lacazette down literally minute for minute in what he does. And the amount of times that we get the ball from defence, Xhaka had the ball at his feet, and the minute he gets the ball and looks up, the ball has to go. The ball has to go into space, and he's that striker that will run through onto that ball. And the amount of times he's got his hands up in the air saying, play it to me early, but we don't. Xhaka gets the ball, he plays it out sideways. We go sideways, backwards. Yes, we had all that possession yesterday, but in the 82nd minute, when we're 1-0 down and we need a fucking goal, we're still going sideways, backwards. And Lacazette is not gonna, what Lukaku can give you in that situation is that he can then come deep, pick the ball up, hold the play up, and then do a kind of Giroud role, but he's also lightning quick and powerful. So if we can learn to play the ball through early, like we've done over the years to Thierry Henry and Ian Wright and all the strikers that we've had, the ball needs to go early because that cuts the defence out quick, takes them by surprise, and Lacazette is quick. That guy can run.
Feed him.
Do you know who would find him?
Space, he's through on goal.
Do you know who would find him?
What's his name? The guy from Germany.
No.
I've already forgotten his name.
No, he's already on the team. He's already on the team, and he wears number 10. And if the guy makes a fucking run, he will put the ball in front of him.
Oh God. Okay. All right.
He will.
And then he'll fall down and clutching his ankle.
Mike, but he will do that.
I know. Well, I hope to see that. I honestly do hope to see that. At this point, what else do we have to lose? So, one comment about the Chelsea scum game today, and I don't remember whether we talked about this at the beginning of the podcast or whether we talked about this before we started taping, but I've never celebrated a Chelsea goal before, but I broke my duck today doing that. Did you see Antonio Conte, though? Yes. Dude went straight up Paulo Di Canio after that goal. No knee slide on the sidelines, but motherfucker went straight up bonkers on people's asses. And I love that. I mean, I don't like it when it's against us, and I generally don't like it when it's a team that I despise. But, in this case, burying Spurs at Wembley in the 80-whatever minute it was just, I mean, his reaction was priceless. Loved it.
Good for them to finally win there, Mike, wasn't it?
Yeah, I know. They
After we stuffed them there twice.
I was trying to compose a tweet, and I just gave up on it because I couldn't make it sound like snarky enough to not be, but show us what you've won in the last, whatever. But yeah, I mean, they're used to getting their ass handed to them at Wembley, and now they got to feel what it's like. So the one good thing that came out of this weekend. So listener questions, user questions. We have 2 categories of questions. We got a lot of them this week. 2 categories. Category 1, the ones that were submitted before the game, and Category 2, the ones that were submitted after the game. And I think you'll notice a general trend here. So first question comes from our dear friend Becca Rhodes, who asks, what position would Bigfoot be if he played for Arsenal? Gixer, what do you think? Andy? 2.
Sorry, catch that again. What was that? What
position would Bigfoot be if he played for Arsenal?
Hold on, Mike. I'd like to take this moment to reach out to Tom Canton. When you miss a question on a podcast, don't answer it blindly. Just say, I'm sorry, but what was that?
I couldn't, Bigfoot, okay, so, I'd probably put him in goal because he'd take the whole goal up, right?
That's what I was going to say.
Just fill him in the goal. Just put him in there, and yeah, that's fair enough.
The answer to the question is wherever the fuck he wants to play is where you would play him. I mean, imagine telling that guy, no, you're going to play on the left today when he wants to play on the right. I mean, you could do that with Bellerin and with Ox, but I mean, I'm going to have to go back to the well again and say that anytime anyone asks me about positions, I mean, it's got to be either reverse cowgirl or doggy. I mean, those are the positions that I would prefer he play for. So anyway, thank you, Becca, for your amazing, thought-inspiring question. At Arsenal Podcast, which is a pretty new account that's doing a very good job of compiling and spreading the word of all the top Arsenal podcasts as well as ours.
Is that what they're doing? They're not actually a podcast themselves?
No, I think they're pretty much. They're retweeting when the Gooner Talk or us or Gooner Ramble or Burkamp 101. Anytime a new podcast comes out, they're helping to spread the word, which is nice. I mean, I follow them for sure if you're listening to this podcast, but I don't know why they're including ours in there because they seem to be sticking just to the good ones. But they threw in a question this week, which was, do you think the haircuts of the new signings are key? I love the fact that we are one of the slickest locker rooms. And before you answer this, Andy, too, I have a counter question, which is, would you accept a title-winning club where every single player had the man bun and braids that Hector Bellerin displayed last year? Because there is a flip side to that. He hasn't caught on, but Andy, what do you think about the haircut game of our new squad, of our new players?
Do you know what? I think Ozil looks absolutely ridiculous, doesn't he, with what he's done to his hair? I mean, what the fuck is that about?
Takes advice from Aaron Ramsey on this hair.
Oh my god, I can't for the life of me understand why they do that.
Is that what they mean by "I just don't think you understand"? I just don't think you understand how to fucking do your hair.
Yeah.
Can I counter your counter question?
Absolutely.
Would you accept a title-winning club where every single player had to wear the helmet that Peter Cech wears every week?
I think that would be great.
All 11 players.
So that you can't see their awful hair? That would be fantastic. Could you imagine that? Like Peter, or if Petr Cech, like God forbid, some sort of tragedy befalls him. I'm not saying I want that, but and as a testimonial, the rest of the team,
instead of black armbands.
Instead of black armbands or anything like that, they're all for the rest of the season. They all play in the rugby helmet. That would be fantastic. And who would not be rooting for Arsenal in that situation?
Did you see that guy on Twitter that turned up in China, the Chinese chap that turned up with the Czech thing on in the Chelsea in the wrong kit? I don't know if you saw that. I'll retweet it out. There was just a load of Arsenal, loads of Chinese Arsenal fans. And there was all in their
Did you just call them Charsenal fans?
Charsenal fans, yeah.
Chinese Arsenal fans.
Yeah, and he turns up with the Czech head guard on in the new Chelsea goalkeeper top, and everyone's just wrong kit, wrong place. Yeah.
Nice attempt there, but we see what you were going for, but it's not working. All right, so that we'll call that our answer. At Ibby Broccoli, chiming in for the second week in a row, and we found out that Ibby Broccoli is a man aged 20 who loves broccoli.
Okay.
So he asks, last week I didn't know if it was a he or a she, but he asked, I should have assumed it was a he because we have very, very, large, small numbers of female listeners. What is your favorite goal?
Who, by the way, is listening to me pod live right now from our living room.
We should when we do the guest
for her.
When we do the picks, we should kick Andy off the podcast and have your mom do them. But anyway, the question is, what's your favorite goal celebration? I already expect great things from Lacazette. Analysis of a celebration of a goal is important. Andy won. What do you think?
I always like the one on FIFA where they run and then they just do like the fish, where they just stop running and then they just fall over like a dead fish.
Are there plenty of fish?
No, it's just one fish.
I know that was an inside joke. Someone will get it. Anyway,
and then and for people that didn't see it, I think last summer when Arsenal were in America, James Corden did a bit with them, and he taught them some very elaborate goal celebrations. So go back and watch it because it's pretty funny.
All right. What's your favorite, Gixer?
I would have to say I like the backflips and stuff. I know that Nani used to do it quite a lot, and there was a guy, I can't remember his name now, years ago, used to do it all the time, but then he got told that he had to stop because he had bad back issues and stuff. Was it Obafemi Martins used to do it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was told by the doctor and the and the team physio that he had to stop doing it because he had some sort of curvature of the spine or something. But I like them, the big old backflips. As much as I hated Nani, he used to do it for United, didn't he? But yeah, I'd have to go with that. I'd like to try and attempt it myself sometime as well. I'd like to see that 21 stones of fat going through the air.
Oh, believe me, I'd be. Could you imagine the two of us doing it like in a meeting in the middle, in mid backflip, and there would be an earthquake.
We'll make that happen. We'll make that happen in Brighton, Mike, when you come over for that game.
Absolutely, we will do that, and then and the entire boardwalk will collapse under our weight. But so crossing off making slating backflips in my answer that I made earlier today. I'm partial to the 30-yard long knee slide that starts at the 6-yard box and ends at the corner flag with those two like contrails behind the guy from his boots. I love that. I mean, there's nothing better than and Giroud is normally the one that pulls it off the best for us, but. You know, I don't need the sucking your thumb or rocking a baby or kissing your wrist tattoo bullshit. I mean, do the full knee slide or the Cantona statue celebration where you just stand there with your arms out, which I think Lacazette kind of has a version of that he's done before. But that's all I ask for. Henry
done that, didn't he, in front of the Spurs fans? You remember that?
Yeah, and frankly, Rooney did it a lot as well. One of the most famous time after that overhead kick against Man City. I think that wasn't even I think that might have been an FA Cup semifinal. But the Giroud's goal celebrations are usually good, with one exception. I'm guessing when he's scorpion kicking behind him like a princess in the 93rd minute of a game. But
I swear to God, I was at that game and I was so close to him when he came over and done that. I nearly jumped over the barriers and smacked him in the face.
we spent a lot of time talking about that, and there's the whole debate, which we won't reopen now. But yeah, I tend to like when he celebrates, and because usually it's in the heat of an incredible moment of the game. But great question, Ibby Broccoli. So then the game comes, and here are some of our lovely questions from afterwards. First, Abhishek Kotnis, who's someone I know and see at the pub frequently. Why on earth is the boss insisting on starting Welbeck? I may have seen enough of him already in 2 starts this season. What do you think, Andy? One.
This is a tough one because I really like Welbeck, and again, he's English. His finishing has some. Look, if it's not Welbeck,
I never knew you to be this sentimental and gushy, man. I mean,
if it's not Welbeck, then it's Theo. And so, lesser of two evils. Welbeck, he needs to finish a little bit more. He needs to finish better because he had a couple opportunities. I think he was held back for a penalty on one of them. But listen, when Alexis returns, we'll probably see Welbeck drop to the bench.
That's what I would assume.
But Welbeck is like the ox. He has speed. He has the ability to run defenders. He can cross with both feet. He can take a shot.
Neither one of them score.
Here's the thing about Welbeck, right? There's a lot of strikers in the world that set themselves up to shoot. Welbeck has a very Ian Wright, Harry Kane, Defoe type of the ability to shoot with power without making himself look like he's shooting. Very dangerous for a keeper because you don't know if he's passing or if he's shooting, and then when you can put the power and precision on it, it's deadly. So Welbeck, he works hard. I mean, Andy, I'll throw it over to you. I like Welbeck. I think for now he needs to start because he's the best thing we've got. But I assume he drops to the bench when Alexis returns next week.
Yeah, I mean...
Or he goes back and plays in central defense. I mean, let's not count it out.
Yeah. The thing is, and I'll go back to what I said originally in the pod. For me, as an Arsenal fan that I am, he's not good enough, and I'd get rid. I love him to bits. I absolutely love the guy to bits. Yeah, same as Jack Wilshere. I love Jack Wilshere to bits. But it's time we've come to the end of the road with these players. Someone's got, and Wenger's scared to tell these players. The reason why we're stuck with Djibouti and Jenkinson and players like that we just need to get rid of is because Wenger is scared. Wenger's openly said over the years, and previous players. Legends of ours have come out and said Wenger does not like confrontation. That's a common fact. He doesn't like having them conversations. But where do we draw the line with these people? You know, Welbeck for me, again, if we're an Arsenal team that's going to challenge to get into Europe and pick up the odd FA Cup, he's good enough for our team. But for me, if we're challenging for that league, he's just not good enough.
Right.
Yeah.
He's just not good enough. He's another player that we could cash in on, get him off the wage bill, and put that money towards signing a Lamar or a Van Dijk or whoever we need to do. That's actually going to impact our season and make us further towards title contenders. Because for me, yeah, he's powerful, he's strong, he's quick, he's English, he's got a lovely smile, he's a really nice guy, he's such a chirpy little bloke.
So Andy, go introduce him to your mom. Don't have him starting for Arsenal. I mean, this is a team full of people that you would love to introduce to your mother, except for Giroud, of course.
But again, I go back to
because you'd end up with another brother if you did that.
But I go back to the same thing. It's like we don't have anything better right now, and we're not going to, because this manager, like Andy said, doesn't have the balls to move these players. So what else can we do? You know, it's like
there's nothing else we can do.
No, you just got to support him.
There's nothing else we can do.
What would you do? Would you rather have Welbeck or would you rather have Theo? For me, I'd put Welbeck in every game if that's the choice.
If that's the choice, yeah, I'd rather have a lobotomy than have Theo. So if that's the choice, we go with Welbeck. But
if that's the choice we're making, gents, then we're
not winning anything.
We're basically saying we're happy with where we are and where we've been. You know, there's people out there that are saying, you know, oh my God, you know, how can you say we had a bad season last year? We've gone backwards. Mm-hmm. Forget the FA Cup. I loved every minute of winning that FA Cup. I really did. It was fantastic. It was good to see Wenger lift another trophy. And it was, you know, but for me, you know, we've gone backwards. You know, the FA Cup is a one. You know, the FA Cup final and the semi-final is a one-off game at Wembley, which is completely different than going to Stoke away and putting in a shift and winning. And the only reason we did that last year, went to Stoke and put in a shift, is because they had nothing to play for, and it was always going to be a completely different game. But if we're saying we're happy with Walcott, Welbeck, and Iwobi, we've just got to admit that we're just going to be the team that we've been last season, and we're going to do that all the way through. Because if Wenger's not going to spend the money, and that's what we're left with, there's no point in us even challenging for the title because we're light years away.
Yeah.
So Andy, do they have my original point?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying it goes back to my original point of if we're happy just to be a top 5 or a top 6 team, if you like now, because I think Everton are going to challenge, then they're all great. That's fine. There's no problems at all. And Wenger's the right man to do that because he will keep the balance high, the bank balance high. He'll, you know, get you there or thereabouts until December time. But if all of us, if we want, you know, as Gooners as we are, we want to challenge for that league, they're not good enough. They've got to be sold and gone.
Yeah, I agree. So we have a combination of what I call rhetorical. I'm going to treat them rhetorically, yet amusing questions from after the game. And we want to just put these all together. At Uber AFC, I don't know if he's German or if he drives an Uber, but Arsenal have failed to win both of their 2 Premier League games of the season for an 8th year in a row. Thank you for ruining my weekend. With that fact, at the PA Gooner, Pete, if Ozil is that good, why are no big club trying to sign him?
Great question.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'd rather just leave it as a question because I think it answers itself. At Frisco's Discos 1, Alexis is in full training this week and not even in the squad. With that in mind, how is Danny Welbeck considered a quote-unquote professional striker? I think
Love Frisco Disco.
Yeah, we've covered that, Mr. Disco.
Mr. Disco.
At Roger, well, we're nothing if not formal on this podcast. At Roger Kendrick, who Welsh Gooner, who I believe you said was leading the shit-ass fantasy Premier League team that we have, if we inverted the lineup, would we do better? This is what I see coming through the Twitter notifications all afternoon as I'm struggling to maintain sobriety. At J_Riddle, if we had combined all French beards on the pitch in a beard diamond formation, would we have beaten Stoke? Asking for a friend.
I like that.
I'm starting to fall in love with our listeners, by the way, because these questions, these are good. These are good. Question for me from Jeremy DeMonte. This is a name I don't recall asking questions.
That's a very powerful name.
At JFD25GIO. That just rolls off the tongue. Would you sacrifice eating Baconators if it meant we signed Virgil van Dijk? So we talked about Virgil van Dijk. Yes, I would sacrifice eating Baconators if we would sign. If that act meant that we would it would cause the signing of Virgil van Dijk. But then I would just simply petition Wendy's to create a new burger made of actual filet mignon with an entire pig on top of it. and have them call it the Feinberger. Speaking of Baconators and racism, because nothing goes together better than those two. A few weeks ago, I posted a picture of a guy who worked at the Wendy's near my house that I thought looked exactly like young Theo Walcott, like the just fresh from Southampton version. And I posted it and was immediately. I mean, this was 2 days after I mistook on our podcast Reese Nelson and Ainsley Maitland-Niles. So I'm starting to start getting worried about myself here a little bit. I was just finally coming to the conclusion, because I've been back to that Wendy's approximately 12 times since then, and I'm like, okay, this guy doesn't really look like Theo. I was kind of wrong. That was stupid. So I took my son there after his football practice, soccer practice on Wednesday, and I said, Jake, this one last time, does that remind you of anybody? And immediately he's like, oh my God, it looks like Theo Walcott. So I don't know if that tells you something. I'm not sure I want to know what it tells you, but at least it runs in the family.
I was about to say, he's been spending way too much time with you, and we need to call child welfare
protective services. So anyway, I will not be posting any more pictures about doppelgangers anymore.
And stop taking pictures of teenage boys.
That is the best advice I've ever gotten from Andy in 51, 52 podcasts. I'll take that under advisement. Jacob Romero at Conifer Gooner. There's been no transfer talk regarding Chambers, so why does he not even make the bench? I mean, we've covered that. It's a question that clearly at least 4 people now are asking, the 3 of us and Jacob. But yeah, I think there's only 4 people that aren't asking that question. It makes no sense. Speaking of defenders, the lovely Amanda at Gooner Girl 6969, or I'm sorry, it's Gooner Girl 1969, who will be joining our airwaves next week after the Liverpool disaster happens. She's back. Andy, who is our favorite left back of all time between Kenny Sansom and Nigel Winterburn? Andy Gixer, what do you think? I know that's not your last name. I'm just calling you that.
No, that's fair enough. This one's quite a hard one for me, because I've actually met Kenny a few times. Actually, when he was going through his bad patch, and he's such a lovely guy. He really is.
Did you have a beer with him?
Yeah, I actually did. Yeah, and it was actually when he was when he was going through his stage of depression, and actually he was an alcoholic at one point. But such a lovely, lovely, nice guy.
Do you blame yourself a little bit?
So, I think it was my fault that it was his undoing. No. Because obviously I'm 31, so my age group, it's got to be obviously Nigel Winterburn. Was what I knew and played. I mean, I think when Kenny signed for Arsenal, it was 5 years before I was even born. So as a player, absolutely Nigel Winterburn. But as I said, I've not met Nigel Winterburn, and I've met Kenny, and he's a really lovely chap. So there you go.
Beautiful.
I was going to go with the same. I was going to go with the same answer, because Nigel was more when I grew up and started supporting the club, and so that's who I know. I will say, though, that
Amanda's only asked that question because Amanda's ancient, so she knows all the players from...
That's what I was about to say. Like, if we knew what it was like to watch these teams play on black and white television, Amanda, we could probably better answer.
Sons of bitches.
Go on a horse and cart and, pay a tuppence to get in.
Yeah, had to walk around by candlelight.
Yeah.
I am not participating in this shambles. Although I will say I'm a little gutted that Andre Santos wasn't one of the choices. I mean, your triple play. But if I have to choose from those two, it's got to be Winterburn. I mean, like you, Andy. I mean, he was the man in the position during my 2 glory years at Highbury in the late '80s. For me, it'll always be Winterburn, Adams, Bold, a little bit of O'Leary sprinkled in, and Dixon, and so I've got to go with Winterburn in that position.
But who's rocked a better mustache on Arsenal than Kenny Sampson? No one.
David
Seaman.
I don't know. He had the ponytail, so that.
And I'm waiting to see what Hector Bellerin's is going to end up looking like when it finally comes in full.
Kenny,
you mean?
Next week, who had the best stash? We'll talk about that.
By the way, Bellerin is not a teenager anymore, so I can safely take pictures of him. And last but not least, we have a question from Mike Hernandez at USA Gooner 1886, who got this question in just under the wire. And this is actually a somewhat thought-provoking question, unlike a lot of the other ones. Would playing 4-3-1-2 be the best formation for the current squad? And even gives us his 4-3-1-2. Defense, Bellerin, Mustafi, Koscielny, Tank. Midfield, Ox, Xhaka, Ramsey. Ozil in the number 10, Alexis and Laka up top. Do you think that would be a better suited, obviously it depends on who we're playing, what competition it's in, but Andy too.
Do you know
does that sound better?
Yeah. I was thinking about this. I was thinking exactly this earlier on, because obviously going back to the game, Ozil is. If we were to play that formation, Ozil wouldn't need to track back, which is what he doesn't want to have to do that. Similar to what Hazard done. So Hazard was moaning under Mourinho, don't want to track back. Conte went, all right, we'll sign Conte, put him in there, and you ain't got to bother because your job's done. It's looked after. So by playing that formation, he wouldn't have to track back. He'd do what the fuck he wants. Give him the ball and put the balls through, which we all know he can do.
So do we have a guy sitting back in front of the back four, though, protecting them like, I hate to say this, like Coquelin did right when he came back from Charlton under that lineup? Because you've got three. I mean, it could be Xhaka, but then are you sacrificing his playmaking ability going forward?
I think you have Xhaka in that role, but then you have Ox's speed.
Didn't you say Ox? Yeah, but you said Ox in there as well, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So Ox will give you that. Ox will give you that defensive stability because he can do that job, which is what he's saying to Wenger. He wants to do. He wants to be that central midfielder. Now, as much as he will bomb forward, he will also get back. So if you know from Ozil's point of view, and this is where Ozil gets caught out, because Aaron Ramsey just runs around like headless chicken, and the amount of times he gets caught out, like we saw with the fucking goal, they're nowhere to be seen. And Xhaka, as much as he can play a nice pass in that, he's not the most mobile around midfield, so he just can't get back there. So the minute the ball was given away, you knew it was only going to come down to one thing. So I just think Ox would give you that protection and potentially give Ozil that number 10 free did when he was fit. He kind of had that open midfielder role where, get the ball and do what you got to do defensively and offensively as well. So potentially, yeah. But again, I'd love to see our manager try it.
All right, this is the part of the podcast where we pause so that Andy can seek medical help.
I'm getting over a cold. Apologies.
Is your cold so bad that you don't know how to use the mute button?
don't have one, Mike.
There's been more phlegm in this podcast than in the previous 50 combined.
I apologize. I don't have a mute button on. I didn't bring the fancy headphones across the pond.
Yeah, that would have just put you over the limit. All right. Well, when the Nigerian billionaire Dangote comes in and buys the squad and gets rid of Wenger, I think we now know who will be replacing him, and his name is at USA Gooner 1886. Thank you for the questions. It was a good round of them today, like some kind of lighthearted comedy to make the wounds less severe. Do we have any Andy's motherfucking musings this week? Did you come up with a musing?
We do.
I
have one. I'm assuming that you guys saw the Billericay video last season where they were singing the R. Kelly song. Did you guys see that?
You're assuming I watch awful content online?
No, so remember that song, The World's Greatest by R. Kelly? Well, anyway, so there's a video that was going around where Billericay's...
Billericay.
For people who don't know, Billericay is a little town outside of Essex. And
they're in Sutton's League, right?
I think so.
The Bananarama, which Sutton is, by the way, top of the table.
They are. So anyway, Billericay has an owner-manager, and last season he had the guys standing around in a circle singing at the top of their lungs R. Kelly's song, The World's Greatest. It's absolutely ridiculous. We'll post it. Well, now he's gone a little bit further. He has designed their dressing room with a lion mural, and each wall has a lion being very aggressive. And I will post this picture as well. But I mean, this guy has just he looks like he just roids up in the gym.
The owner?
The owner, but he's also the manager. He's just absolutely outlandish, and I'll post this up.
And he's 4 of their players as well.
He's
the owner, manager, and the front 3.
He might be, but he has signed ex-Premier League stars Paul Konchesky, Kevin Foley, Jamie O'Hara, and Jermaine Pennant. Yeah, and sadly,
former Gooner Jermaine Pennant.
Yeah,
former hat-trick Gooner.
Yeah, and unfortunately they lost their season opener 1-0 to Kingstonian on Saturday. So
it's a huge derby, by the way.
But
all right, well,
I'll post the
that's
link.
the music.
I'll post the link.
Yeah, we got to see that. Post it under the pod account, and let our users take a gander, which is another Sutton reference there. But now picks, which I'm very excited to get to because. Last week we were joined by my son Jake for picks, and between the 3 of us, 3 games, 9 predictions, only 1 correct, and that was me. If you need to know, Huddersfield Town prediction. I did have them winning and going top of the table. So I've raced out to a 4-2 lead on you, Andy, and on the guest spot. So you got some catching up to do. The first game this week, and just to make sure, Andy, we picked the winner and the score, and we'll let you go third so that you have some time to formulate your thoughts. But the first game of the 3 this week is Swansea at Crystal Palace. This one, to me, could be an early season 6-pointer in the relegation battle. I fear for Palace this season. I do have a soft spot for them, and I just think that they're in trouble. But Swansea's dead man walking at this point. This feels like 1-0 Palace. Andy, 1. What do you think?
Yeah, I can't see Palace losing this. I'm going to go 2-0 Palace.
Okay. And see, Andy always gives like incredibly detailed analysis of the game, and that's what we just heard. Andy Gixer, 46. What do you think?
I'm going 2-1 Palace.
Okay. And was Andy Gixer 40 or 1 through 45 taken, or is it the 46 mean something else?
Well, the Gixer is actually it's a long story. A Gixer is a nickname for a motorbike, a Suzuki GSXR.
I actually looked that up, and in Wikipedia, in the Urban Dictionary, it says something about the fact that it's like a bike that people who buy the bike are completely unable to use the bike to its full potential. Yeah. And I mean, is that true?
So it's basically I had a GiTs 1000, so it was GSXR 1000, and 46 was actually it's the number that Valentino Rossi rides in the MotoGP.
Ah, okay.
So it probably means nothing to you guys, but yeah. So I like watching the MotoGP, and that was my favourite rider, Valentino Rossi, follows with 46. So that was where that came from.
Where did that come from? Whatever that noise was. Jesus.
It was fucking him farting again, was it?
Things are just coming all out of every single orifice of Andy's body on this podcast, which I think now we've just got a name for the podcast.
At least I don't take pictures of teenage men.
Well,
teenage man children.
Well, you've been on the jack again, haven't you? And you've been on the old jack.
If he didn't want pictures taken of him, he shouldn't have been working as a cashier at Wendy's. I mean, you just have to understand when you go into that kind of a job, you're going to have pictures taken of you. So, okay. All right, the second game of the week is Everton at Chelsea. After today, is Chelsea back on track? Will Everton be riding high off of beating Man City in the game that happens tomorrow? Or are they going to be kind of pushed back to their place? I don't know, but I'm going to go 3-1 Chelsea since it's at home. Andy?
Yeah, I wasn't too impressed today with Chelsea, and I watched it with my brother-in-law, and I turned, and he's a West Ham fan, so he doesn't really know football anyway. But he said the same thing. Chelsea just didn't look that good, and so I'm gonna go 1-1 here.
1-1, all right. And Andy?
And by the way, that wasn't me farting, that was my mom farting.
I thought it smelled a little different than the first one, but all right.
She's not paying attention.
All right, Andy.
It's at the bridge, isn't it?
It's at the bridge.
Yeah. 2-0 Chelsea.
2-0. The defense back on track. Arsenal at Liverpool, of course, is our third and final game. Gewalt. it'd be funny if Alexis comes back at Anfield, the place where he was forbidden to play in the first half last time we were there. But I can't, and I say this fully hoping to be proven wrong, like I always do, reverse jinx. But I can't see us coming out of that game any better than 3-1 loss. Andy?
Yeah, I don't see us winning this. But fuck, we're such a Jekyll and Hyde team. Maybe we will win.
Those are 2 out of the 3 possibilities.
But likely we won't. 2-0 Liverpool. Coutinho scores both goals. Hey-o.
A reverse of May 26, 89. Andy, what do you think?
I'm going on the basis that our insane manager can't get it wrong for a third week in a row, so he'll fucking pick the right team defensively, and I think we'll win 2-1.
We get the Koscielny back?
Lacazette and Sanchez. Yeah, Koscielny's back, so that's going to mean that there'll be one less left back in the back three.
That's not necessarily. It doesn't mean that automatically.
Yeah, and I'm hoping he does the right thing and puts Holding back in there with Mustafi and Koscielny each side of him, or whichever way he wants to do that. Plays fucking Kolasinac in the position that we bought him for. If that team's the right team, I've got a feeling he can't get it wrong for a third week in a row. I think we'll win 2-1, and that'll be so Arsenal. Everyone's jumped on the old Wenger this, Wenger that. Oh, it's doom and gloom, and then we'll go and win at Anfield. I think we're due a win there as well. Due a fucking win at Anfield.
Well,
2-1 Arsenal. Lacazette and Sanchez.
Love it. Hope that happens, and I hope we're not sitting there after match day 3 on 3 points. Out of 9, you'd almost think it's over at that point, and it's ridiculous to say it that early, but that's the feeling that you'd have. So, and speaking of the upcoming game, which is Liverpool, you are going to that one, Andy?
I'm not, unfortunately.
Oh,
no.
He's moving, Mike. For fuck's sake, listen to our guests.
He said he was moving last
Stop
week.
Stop scrolling through your pictures of teenage men and listen.
I'm moving. I've moved out of the flat into my mum's house today. Then next week, moving into the new gaff.
Okay, yeah.
Andy, I apologize for this unprofessionalism.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I rely on my staff in order to feed me that information, and they failed me in that situation. I know our guest next week, who is Amanda, is going. I'm guessing she's not riding that coach up there that I keep hearing about.
Lee Judge's away bus?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lee Judge's birthday next week, so he's not going. He's away. He's away for his birthday, so yeah, he's not making the trip to Anfield next week either.
Lovely Judges.
Monte Carlo?
Going away up there for my birthday. That's what I said to him. I said, weekend in Liverpool for my birthday, yes please. But he's got other plans, so yeah, he's not going on the singing bus either.
Yeah, I heard his room at the Monte Carlo casino is being prepared for him as we speak.
Andy, what were your 3 songs that you gave to the group? Do you remember?
Yeah. So I said, Dire Straits, Walk of Life.
Back up, because you got to explain what the 3 songs are about.
Well, Mike,
we told you this on last week's pod.
I
didn't say you had to explain it. I didn't say you had to explain it to me. I was talking about to anyone that might be listening to this podcast.
Okay.
Mike,
I know
between
what the 3
Andy
songs are.
and our 2 moms, everyone knows what they. So.
And the kid at Wendy's.
And the kid at Wendy's that Mike now has a restraining order with.
I was saying, tell our wonderful listeners, our millions and millions of Gooners around the world, what the rule
This
3
goes
is.
back to Jeremy DeMonte's question: would you give up Baconators? You have to give them up because you're not allowed within 500 yards of a fucking Wendy's anymore.
I'm gonna go buy a drive-thru with like a really, really long conveyor belt that could serve it out to.
You're gonna go in with an Arsene Wenger mask.
That's scary.
All right, so the deal Lee has.
Probably get 140 quid a week if I actually do that.
To get on the away bus, you have to present 3 songs that can go into the playlist rotation. If your 3 songs are not up to the standards of the party bus, you're not allowed to ride. So Lee went around and asked Andy and I what our songs would be. Andy came along with some real good ones. I just went boy bands. But Andy, what were your 3? What were your 3 songs?
Now look who's interested in young boys.
Hey! When I pulled out One Direction, everyone was like, "Yeah, that can go on the playlist." So
there's only one direction you're going, and that's back to the United States. So. Not onto that bus. All right, so Andy, what were your 3 songs? Are we allowed?
I had
if we ever shut up, we'll let you get to it.
If I had Dire Straits, Walk of Life. I had Cheer Up, Sleepy Jean.
Mm-hmm.
And Elton John, Crocodile Rock.
Oh, that would be good for a trip up to Watford, which is a short trip, but.
Go on a train on that. I've got tickets for that sorted as well. So yeah, Watford away and Chelsea away soon as well, which is yes, we'll see what happens. Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm starting to formulate my 3 because I might need them for Brighton if I'm lucky enough. But I was thinking in terms of the Benny Hill theme from last week that we played on our podcast. But I'm not sure that's going to work. So. On Friday, this Friday, we find out our Europa League fate. So we know you're not traveling to Liverpool, but you normally would be going anywhere that the Arsenal go. But are you going to be traveling to Azerbaijan, deepest, darkest Turkey, and the Faroe Islands to see how we do in the group stages, or is it are you boycotting, or are you going for the Europa, or does it depend on where the game is?
It massively depends on where it is. I've openly said to myself I won't go to Italy, Turkey, or Russia. I've heard that I've not been to Milan or Juve, but I've heard their fans aren't the friendliest. Galatasaray goes for itself.
They're not too friendly, and Lazio either.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't fancy getting stabbed up in the face with a machete. So, do you know what? I'll probably make the most of my my BT Sports subscription and just watch it on there. But saying that, there is some. If we get Ludogorets again, Ludogorets was a pucker away day last year, brilliant, and it's so cheap out there as well. It's a fantastic place, Bulgaria. So if we get Ludogorets, I'll definitely go back out there without a shadow of a doubt.
So are they in Europa this season? I haven't.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're in it. I think they drew their first game. I think they're 1-1. They obviously play again this week. So, I think they drew. I can't remember now what they did.
Love to see them again. All right. Well, we'll certainly talk about that next podcast, which is going to be a week from Tuesday. It's going to be a late one, but that's just the way it is. Shout out real quick, some final thoughts. I want to shout out to a new listener who tweeted us back on Monday. His name is Kerry McCollum, @Kerry_McCollum. And surprisingly, his name is Kerry McCollum.
Liar.
And I love people with these confusing Twitter names. He tweeted us that he just finished listening to our pod and was like a kid in a candy store because he's been living in Arsenal solitude for 7 or 8 years since he became a supporter. He lives in Alabama, which is, the part of our country that's much more college football than real football country. And his brother is a Spurs supporter.
Yeah.
Yet he picked Arsenal. He supports them. He barely gets along with his brother now, but he loved that he found some content to listen to that was, kind of emanated from the U.S., was about his club, wasn't too serious or analytical. And that is what the podcast was designed for. It was for Kerry McCollum because we're just trying to have some fun. Not take ourselves too seriously, and welcome to the world of the GiTs, Kerry, and please spread the word so that we can take over Alabama. Maybe Alabama will be our 100th country when we finally get to 100 countries. Andy, you
want a podcast from Alabama?
Yeah, maybe. I'll tell you my real feelings after the podcast.
If we're going down that road, I didn't know Alabama had the internet. Hey-o!
Oh, jeez.
No.
And
one less listener.
And he's gone. So one of the things I like to do, because I got a kick out of it, and believe me, we're not lying about this. I recognize that it might be a fault of the software, but we have this software that tells us where our downloads are coming from around the world, and if we believe that it's accurate, it's been telling us that pretty much at this point we're picking up one new country every week or two. It's slowed down a little bit. Last week was Malta, and I had absolutely nothing as far as interesting facts or Arsenal-related snippets on that. But this week, country number 93 has come on board, and it's Vanuatu, which I believe is in the South Pacific, somewhere near Fiji or part of Fiji. I'm sorry, I didn't do the research. I give up. I can't even come up with anything for Vanuatu, and it's got to be someone on vacation.
It's George going to Vanuatu.
who couldn't live without our podcast for a week while they were on the
Andy,
beach. They're on a nude beach in Vanuatu.
A lot of people never heard our first pod because it was new. It was just kind of one of these. So it was me, Mike, and this guy named George. And George, all of a sudden, after that podcast, became like a Hollywood movie star or something. And so, like, he muted us in the chat group. So he's too big for us, Mike. I think we can both say that, right?
That being said, I can't wait to hang out with him in January.
I love George. Yeah, absolutely. But I think he's just potting, or he's listening to us around the world, and that's why we get these crazy-ass countries. Yeah,
well, Vanuatu's on board. I'm chuffed that we're getting downloads from so many places, and we're getting ever so close to that 100th country where we have promised, like our promises that are always kept about things that we will do for people, that we will go to that country and do a podcast from that country. So, I mean, I'm starting to get a little bit nervous about this, but so please, by the way, if you are the person from Vanuatu, please reach out to us on Twitter if you're actually that person, and we will require proof. And
what if they don't have a Twitter account?
I don't care. They got to get one. Do they not have Twitter in Vanuatu?
Well, no, or Facebook. Reach out to us on some platform. If you're a teenage boy, probably send a picture to Mike.
No, I am not accepting those anymore. I'm done with that.
Andy,
I'm going to Jamaica in November, so I'm definitely going to put that on the list. I'm guessing it's not on the list as it is.
Oh, it's on there. It's on there.
Is it actually on there? Yeah.
Yeah, we've gotten a list.
Usain Bolt loves our podcast.
He's huge. It's one of his shameful things because he's a Man United fan, but he secretly loves Gooners in the USA. I mean, how can you not?
Andy, I have a huge favor to ask of you. So in October, a very dear friend of mine and friend of the pod, Eric, is coming over to England. He's
September.
Is it September? I thought it was October. Anyway,
End of September.
He's coming over. He's going to his first Arsenal match. This kid has been in love with this team for as long as I've known him, which has been 15 years, if that.
I've known him since he was a teenage boy.
I wish I could be there with him because I want to see his reaction when he walks up to the ground, when he goes in and sees the team coming out of the tunnel, because he's like a lot of American supporters where he gets to see him on TV but doesn't get to the match. I want to connect the two of you so he can meet you before a match at one of the pubs so you can kind of show him around a little bit. Because I feel like, you were so gracious when I met you and you talked to me like we'd known each other for years, and I feel like when you're a supporter with this club, that's the type of family you have when you're a Gooner, and so would love to have the two of you connect, and just personally had such an amazing time, hanging out with you and whatnot before and after the match, and again,
yeah, definitely. If he's bringing his kid, it'll have to be the 12 pins though, because they don't let kids in the tolly, mate.
No, he's coming. It's just him and his girlfriend, and I think another friend. So
Andy called him a kid.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't talking about his kid. He was actually.
Oh no! Yeah.
He said he was bringing his kid with him. Oh, okay.
Well, he might have. If he has kids, I don't think he knows about them because he's a player.
If he has kids, there's some fucking good-looking kids, though. I met Eric a couple weeks ago in Chicago. He was.
You know what he did, Andy? And then he texts me and he goes, "Sucks how handsome this guy is, huh?" I'm like, what? That? Yeah.
Well, I calls it like I sees it. But
did you take a picture of him for your collection?
Speaking of handsome, next week we are excited to have a first-time guest join us, another one, 2 weeks in a row, way overdue. It is Princess Amanda at Gooner Girl 1969 will be gracing us with her presence. And I think I should warn our users that this might be the dirtiest, sexiest, most not safe for work podcast we've done.
I'm literally going to just sit in the background and not say anything. That's what's going to happen.
Do you like to watch? Is that your?
I'm going to need a fire hose, I think.
Mike, I think you're a little bit in love with her, aren't you?
There's no comment on that. Feeling must be mutual, of course, but. You think the pod that we just finished is sexy? I mean, this was sexy AF, but it's going to be ridiculous next week. All right, anyway, it's going to be the kind of freaky, very, very freaky pod, the kind you don't take home to mama. Are you getting the idea of what it's going to be? So stay tuned for that one. Post-Liverpool next Tuesday night is the earliest we can get to it, so you will just have to wait. that is it for today. Little lighter hearted than I expected it to be honest with you. I thought we'd just be like depressing each other and listening to The Cure.
I think the three of us got our frustrations out in text message yesterday, so probably for the better. But Andy, again, thank you so much for coming on.
Nice, thanks for having me on, chaps. I appreciate it.
And I'm looking forward to getting the it's like the girlfriend experience, the Andy experience when I get there in March, which is starting to look like it's going to happen. I'm getting excited.
Yeah, let me know. Obviously, it's a long way off, Mike. But yeah, no, for Brighton away's a fan. Obviously, I've never been down there, but a few of my friends went. I think we got them in the FA Cup a few years back. I can't remember when it was now.
Yeah, we did. I remember that. The FA Cup.
They all said they all went down there, and as long as it's not a ridiculous, knowing our luck, it'll be a fucking Monday night.
Monday, yeah.
Yeah. But if it's any time over the weekend, Brighton's a great place to go and have a few beers and hit a few bars and stuff as well. So it'll be a good day out. There'll be loads going down there for that as well.
As a teenage boy, I actually went down to Brighton to. They have when I lived in.
Of teenage
boys. No, I was taking pictures of 44-year-old men back at that point. No, I remember going down to Brighton. I think they had an amusement park down there. It was beautiful. I loved it, and it'd be exciting to go back and catch some football. But either way, looking forward to it. Thanks for coming on the podcast. It was great chatting with you. And
thanks for having me on. I appreciate that.
Have a great week, and come on, you Gooners.